Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of And Yet We Believe. I am Roger Pimentel. With me, Ann Pimentel. We are married to each other.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, absolutely.
18 years. We just celebrated our anniversary.
Absolutely did. Tell us about today's episode.
So today we are going to be talking about our identities. And where this comes from is last week I was reading an article put out by the organization called Black Lives Bless. They're a great organization to support. And they did an article and a supplemental Come Follow Me lesson about the official declaration number 2 that talks about the race ban and temple ban.
The manifesto.
Yeah. And so they were creating this document to kind of help our wards talk about this in a more educated way, looking into history and all of that.
Right.
But there was a line in there that I really, really appreciated, and it's kind of stuck with me for the past few days. It says, "Are there ways that popular opinion, political tribalism, or unkind traditions are shaping us more than the gospel of Jesus Christ?" And so I'm curious about what is shaping us, what is creating and forming our identities that help us go out throughout the world.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think about that statement from Black Lives Bless?
Well, certainly those labels, those parts of our identity shape who we are. Mm-hmm. And the question that's being posed here is, are those things shaping us more than the gospel of Jesus Christ is? Are we identifying with other things, other characteristics? It might be a political party. Mm-hmm. It might be race. It might be hobbies. There's a million different things that fill out our identity. But are we being more influenced by those things than by the gospel?
Right. And I kind of had a question if there is a difference between our personal identities, like being, for me, a white woman,
sure.
Straight. Is there a difference between that and maybe group identities, like Christianity and a liberal, or, whatever group identities? Is that an important distinction in this conversation, or does the intersectionality of it all play into all of our choices? Where do you land on that?
I'm not sure. It depends if those group identities are manifesting differently as an individual identity, I would think. Mm-hmm. I think that's a complicated question.
Well, so I think that there are parts of our personal identity that absolutely lead into or lean heavy into other identities. I think intersectionality is huge in this conversation.
Sure.
Because as a white person, that is going to affect how I show up in Christianity. It's going to affect how I show up in my political affiliation. And so I think that, I don't necessarily want to say that every identity we have is getting in the way of following Jesus.
Sure, yeah.
But there's definitely a web being woven by all of our identities.
Right. So this kind of fits in with a talk that President Nelson gave a couple of years ago, in 2022, May of 2022, to young adults, where he talked about labels. You might remember this talk. He says, labels can be fun and indicate your support for any number of positive things. Many labels will change for you with the passage of time, and not all labels are of equal value. But if any label replaces your most important identifiers, the results can be spiritually suffocating. And he gives this talk about labels. So as a visual aid, if you're listening on the podcast, you can't see, but I am wearing a sweatshirt with the Seattle Seahawks logo on it. This is a fun, enjoyable label. I like sports. This is a sports team that I like to root for. But I'll tell you, societally, we have a really difficult time leaving these things alone. Mm-hmm. And so a few weeks ago, I posted a video on Instagram where I was wearing something with a Seahawks logo on it, and all the comments were like, go Seahawks or boo Seahawks, or people making jokes like, I don't know if I can take that seriously coming from a Seahawks fan or whatever. And I think it didn't matter what I said in the video.
Yeah.
Like
they clearly didn't hear it.
right? The presence of the label was too distracting.
Yeah. Yeah. So and I mean, within the church, within Utah in the church,
yes,
that is huge, because the whole BYU Utah division gets in the way of treating people kindly.
It
right?
does. It does. And if you're
so dumb.
If you're outside Utah, maybe this is different, or maybe there's a different rivalry in your area that is like this. And I can give an example. So there's a guy in our ward, and he's a good friend of mine now. But we were both serving in the young men, and for a while, every time we talked, he would need to like needle me about. We both we both went to BYU, and he's a Utah guy. And so he'd have some like joke to make or some comment or something. And we're not big into that rivalry. I'm not from Utah. So it doesn't really matter that much to me. We have other family that went to the U, that sort of thing. Yeah. And so finally I just said, hey, look, I think you're barking up the wrong tree here. Like, I don't care. Have you noticed that I'm not like jabbing back after you make a jab? And he goes, oh, yeah, okay. And it was like this new thing, this new idea. Yeah. But I think the point here is we're really good at identifying with things like a sports team that we really like. And I think, and this is an interesting point, I think we're really good at like indoctrinating our kids into those things.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're a BYU family, and so everybody's gonna wear BYU gear, and or a professional sports team or whatever, or we are this political party, and that's what we do in this family, sort of a thing. And so we get really oriented around, we're gonna pass these things down to our kids. We were talking earlier. One thing for me was I grew up not liking country music. And kind of being told like, oh yeah, no, that
is the lesser music.
That's not for us.
Which was hard for me. I grew up loving country music.
Right. Well,
so,
and this is that sort of thing. All of these labels and parts of identity have an other, right? Mm-hmm. They are all designed to separate us from other people. It's being on a team. We're the good guys, they're the bad guys. Yeah. Sort of a thing. But it kind of blows up at some point. And I was trying to remember where this example comes from. It comes from maybe Brian McLaren or maybe James Fowler, talking about you grow up being taught that, oh, this group of people is bad. Mm-hmm. And then they said, then you date a girl that's in that group, and you meet her family, and they're all great and they're awesome, and you love them, and you go, wait a second, somebody sold me a bag of goods. What's the phrase?
That works. Let's go with that.
That was pretty close, I think. Basket? Bag? Anyway, so somebody sold me this idea that these people were bad, and I just learned for myself that they are not. Mm-hmm. And so there's a little kind of, cognitive dissonance on that, a little tiny crisis on that.
Yeah, I think that is showing up most in society right now with LGBTQ people.
Yes. People
in that community, whether it's a family member that comes out and you already love that family member, and so, and you've been trained and taught and you understand deep in your soul that people that are gay are bad, and then someone you love is gay, and suddenly you're having to hold this paradox, and you're like, what do I do with this? How do I handle what I have made as my identity as somebody that is against this thing? Mm-hmm. How do I handle this? And it can be earth-shaking for people.
Absolutely.
To have to suddenly deal with that. And so that's part of the problem. Like, this is what we're talking about today, is having something, I don't want to say trivial, but something that is not God,
yes,
as your key identity, that gets in the way of loving people and caring for people and showing empathy and being understanding and, all of those things that Jesus taught us to do.
Right.
So I have an example. I know you have a scriptural example.
I do.
And I have a modern day example.
Okay. Which one should we start with?
Let's start with the modern example.
Okay.
So this comes from Melissa Inue's book, Sacred Struggle.
Yes, which is great.
It's so wonderful. So in this book, she talks about, she was a historian for the church, and she was instrumental in bringing about the global histories from different countries around the world. And so she talks about this couple named Priscilla and Ernest Sibanda from Zimbabwe.
Okay.
They're a Black couple in the late 70s, 1970s. They were accused of helping white people too much. And so whatever force that was angry at them, whatever group it was that was accusing them of this, came to their house, forced them to move, and essentially chased them out. And so they ended up like 150 miles away in a different city, and found jobs, like tried to rebuild their lives. They found the missionaries, and they were the first Black couple baptized in this country.
Cool.
Their ward was all white. It was all white members. So they were the first Black couple and the only Black couple in their ward.
Yep.
And so eventually, I don't know the timeline here, but eventually Ernest was called as a teacher in, Sunday school. It was elders quorum, I think, or maybe high priest, because it was just to men that this story happened.
Sure.
And he's called to teach them, and he stands up to teach, and the class of white people was like, hold up, this guy is not going to teach us. We are not going to listen to him.
Yikes.
And Ernest said, if we are all Latter-day Saints, and I am assigned by the Lord to teach you, then I have to teach you. And so Melissa says, she says, these white members felt themselves to be good Latter-day Saints, even as they felt themselves to be automatically superior to anyone with more melanin in their skin, that they failed spectacularly to follow the Savior's call to treat Ernest and Priscilla the way they themselves would want to be treated. Now listen to this part.
Okay.
She says, protecting others' safety, dignity, and well-being is not the cherry on top of a temple recommend holding, tithe-paying, word of wisdom obeying life. It is the whole point of life.
Ooh.
Violating those things is a violation of the fundamentals of Jesus's teachings. So these white members who thought they were good members of the church,
for sure,
they let their racism, their white supremacy, get in the way of loving a fellow Latter-day Saint,
right,
fellow member of the church, and so they had all the boxes checked of things that they were doing right,
obeying the word of wisdom, paying tithing,
temple recommend, all the things. But this one, and maybe others, but at least in this example, this one identity marker got in the way for them and caused them to depart from what Jesus was teaching.
Right.
So I think that's a really good example of how we can let something that we hold on to get in the way of Jesus. Something
cultural, something societal, and it just, it blocks it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, why don't you share your scriptural example?
Okay, yeah, my scriptural example is the story of Jonah and the whale, except not the part with the whale.
Right. We know that story.
We know that part, but there's a part of this story that we don't really talk about usually. So, again, Jonah is called by God to go teach in Nineveh. Nineveh was in Assyria. Assyria and Israel were not happy with each other.
Not fans.
These were political enemies, and Jonah had been called to go teach them, and he says, not going to do it. Goes the other way, swallowed by the whale, spit back out. That's the story we know so well. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, he does go to Nineveh, and he does teach them, and they accept the gospel, and they repent. And let's see, let me grab a couple verses. Chapter 3, verse 10. When God saw what they did, how they turned from their evil ways, God changed his mind about the calamity that he had said he would bring upon them, and he did not do it. So God forgives and ultimately blesses the people of Nineveh. Mm-hmm. and Jonah is furious. So he's just gone as a missionary and been wildly successful. He teaches the people, they repent, God blesses them, and he says, dang it!
Why aren't you going to hurt them now?
That's not what I wanted. And this is chapter 4, verse 1. But this was very displeasing to Jonah, and he became angry. And he's angry because God just blessed his enemies.
Well, and I think part of it is, especially in the Old Testament, the people knew God as a vengeful, spiteful God.
Okay, sure.
And so in Jonah's mind, these people were bad and had done wrong. And so even though he was teaching them and bringing them to God, he felt that they needed to be punished in some way, you know? And so he wanted that justice. He wanted to have the playing field leveled or equal. And God is like, actually, I'm going to show some grace. I'm going to show some love here. And that's showing the true nature of God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one more verse to add to that, verse 3, Jonah ends up saying, and now, O Lord, please take my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live. He would rather die than see his political enemies be righteous and blessed by God.
Yeah.
It's
priorities are mixed up.
So Rob Bell talks about this, and he says the story is extremely subversive because it insists that your enemy may be more open to grace and love than you are.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we're thinking about, the people on the other side of the political aisle, or even the people that are rooting for the rival college team, you know, we're not always in a position to want to see them be the good guys and see us be the bad guys. Again, from Rob Bell, he says, this story blasts to pieces our biases and labels with the declaration that God is on everyone's side, extending grace and compassion to everyone, especially those who we have most strongly decided are not on God's side.
Yeah.
I love that.
Great.
God is on everyone's side.
Yeah. So, you know, if we go back to this original statement from the article I read, are there ways that popular opinion, political tribalism, or unkind traditions are shaping us more than the gospel of Jesus Christ? The problem here is political tribalism, political identity, you know, identity politics, whatever you want to call it. Those are focused on exclusion.
Yes.
Now, you're finding your people. You're finding a community that you agree with.
Yep.
But by so doing that, you are excluding others. And often, in a lot of these cases, you're excluding them because you don't like them. You hate what they're doing. There's anger. There's kind of vitriol involved.
It's the good guys and bad guys again.
Yeah. Especially when it comes to politics. And so, and the problem is that Jesus's gospel is focused on inclusion.
Yes.
So identity politics are the exclusion. Jesus focuses on inclusion. And that's where we're having a lot of issues. That's where peacemaking falls apart. When we can't, we are so deeply seeped in our political identity or cultural identity or, you know, whatever it is, that we can't see that everyone is a child of God.
Yeah.
We can't see that basic thing about another human being. And so we start to pile on of all the things that are wrong with them and why we don't like them. And
yes.
And then this divide just grows and grows and grows.
And Jesus sandblasts this idea like over and over and over again, both in the things he teaches and in the things he does. You know, literally teaches that we should love our enemies.
Yeah.
That it doesn't get much more straightforward than that. He teaches the parable of the Good Samaritan, which breaks all kinds of boundaries. He touches a leper. You know, he teaches the Samaritan woman who had 5 husbands. He protects a woman who is caught in the very act, it says, of adultery. Like, she wasn't innocent.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, there's this woman who had 5 husbands, and you know, all of these things. Jesus just hits this point again and again and again about we're all just We're all just human beings.
Yeah.
We're all just people. We're all in this together. And these artificial boundaries that we draw don't matter.
Yeah. So I kind of have two thoughts on this.
Okay.
We know, from based on what you just said, Jesus's teachings were radical. They went against all the cultural norms, all of the cultural expectations. They were radical in that day.
Yes.
And I want to propose that they still are.
Yeah, I agree.
They still are very radical in the way that we interact with people, which is really unfortunate that more than 2,000 years later,
we still haven't gotten it.
Still are dealing with radical love and empathy and all of that. So a few days ago, I heard a friend of mine talk about how hard it is for her that Christianity is under attack. And, she was just bemoaning this, that Christianity is under attack and we're just hated and, all of that. And I we just kind of finished the conversation. But when I got home, I was thinking, it's not really that Christianity is under attack necessarily. The thing that I am seeing is that people who claim to be Christian are not actually following Christ.
Okay.
And so they're not following what Christ taught.
Not all of them, but some.
No.
Yeah.
There are some that are claiming to be Christian that are not doing Christian-like things.
Okay. Yes.
Or Christ-like things, I should say, because that's even more pure than Christian-like things. And so, I do think that what's the right word? That division of not doing Christ-like things when you claim to be following Christ.
Mm-hmm. Hypocrisy.
Yeah, that hypocrisy should be called out. That should be under attack. If you are claiming to be a Christian, to follow Christ, and then you're hating people and excluding people and, harming people with your words and whatever, that needs to be called out.
Yeah.
And this is not a call to violence. Violence
Certainly
has no place in it. I am just saying that we need to bring to people's attention the difference, that hypocrisy, that space where they're claiming one thing and not actually, their actions are not lining up with that.
If performative Christianity is under attack, it probably should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my thought is, if Jesus was radical and was saying, follow me, be different, step out from the crowd, what is the difference now?
Right.
I don't see a difference.
It's not different.
In what Jesus is asking us to do right now. And that maybe the only difference is it was people that were Jewish primarily learning to follow Christ, and this Christianity was being born.
Sure.
And now it is, Christianity is a thing, and we're still trying to pull out and be a different kind of Christian. There's something that has happened in the broader Christian church, especially as politics is mixed into it, that has muddied the water of what Christianity is. And Christ is asking us to be different, to set yourself aside or apart from that.
Yeah. So let me throw a scripture verse in here that I had written down in my notes. This is Ephesians 4, verse 14, very familiar. Okay. And it says, we must no longer be children, tossed to and fro and blown about by every wind of doctrine. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've all heard people say that the gospel can't be influenced by what's popular in society. And usually this comes up when we're talking about something becoming more recognized or more acceptable in society. Maybe it's related to women's issues. Mm-hmm. You already mentioned LGBT issues, that sort of thing. But what if we looked at the other side of this? And what if we said, I'm not going to be influenced, I'm not going to be blown to and fro by our society's divisiveness? Mm-hmm. And what if we said, I'm not going to be influenced by our society's rejection of people who don't walk and talk like I do? Mm-hmm. And what if we said, I'm going to stand as a witness of God at all times and in all things and not let the winds of society blow me toward being judgmental mm-hmm. and unaccepting of other people? That's what's happening in our society right now. And we can say, I'm not going to conform to it.
Yeah. There's so much division because these political identities are becoming more important than what Jesus taught.
Yeah. And that's where people are saying, like, I'm going to stand as a witness as a member of this political party. That's not it.
Yeah. Well, I just was listening to a podcast right before we started, and they were talking about when, and this can be true in any political party, if you're going to say X person is going to save us, they're the only one that can save us.
Mm-hmm.
If that space is not filled with Jesus can save us. If you put any other name in there, then your identities are maybe mixed up.
You've got the priorities wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's really interesting, and I think that that's what the problem is people. I mean, we've said it over and over, I guess, tonight, but people are putting the identity, especially a political identity. I'm just feeling that one so strong right now, and maybe it's because today is the voting day in America. It's front of mind, but people are putting that in front of their call to mourn with those who mourn and bear up one another's burdens, and it's not, the political focus is not following Jesus. Either side, neither side is free from being called out, I guess.
And I think we all do this, whether it's with politics or something else. We all get our priorities mixed up. We all end up allowing other parts of identity take precedence over the gospel at different times. We even see general authorities over the pulpit with biases because they're human beings too. So, like, we literally all do this. And so maybe we can ask the question, how can we tell if we're prioritizing something else over the gospel? What do you think?
Well, the thing that just came to my mind was in anti-racism, and we've shared this before on the podcast, but in anti-racism work, we talk a lot about our biases and how we have these thoughts that will always come. When you see a person, you immediately have a thought. That's your implicit bias. It just comes to your mind. So that first thought is just natural. It's just going to show up. And what is important is what you do with your second thought.
Right.
Okay. And so that's where your action, you get to choose, do I lean into this stereotype that just popped into my mind, or do I, change the stereotype, change the reaction to a stereotype or something. And so I think that that's a good test as we are, let's say we're interacting with a person and they say something that we don't like, and our identity politics would tell us to respond in a certain way.
Right.
That's our first reaction, but we can take a beat and wait for that second reaction and say, well, what would Jesus do? Is it that simple? Do we all need the bracelet back of WWJD? What would Jesus do? What has Jesus taught me? And then follow that second thought that has more of a pause. We all need to take a pause. Always. And then we focus and kind of filter everything we do through the gospel.
Right.
And that should inform us of how to act and how to move forward.
Yeah, if we're able to take that beat and if we're able to ask this reaction, does this cause me to love others the way that Jesus did? Mm-hmm. Would probably be a good filter for this, right?
Yeah.
And if so, do it. And if not, don't. That makes it sound very simple.
Yeah. But
those first reactions can be so strong, especially when it's outrage.
Yeah.
And outrage is contagious, and that's what's all over TV, and that's what's all over social media, and that's why we end up in the predicaments that we're in, is we see something and we get outraged. And it's like a default state to be angry and outraged about something that somebody said, and it might not even be true, but we're so ready to be outraged about it. I think it's a little bit like trying to spend less time on your phone. You ever done this? Be like, oh yeah, I'm going to spend less time on my phone. And then like 1 second later, I'm looking at my phone again.
Yeah.
Like every bone in my body is oriented toward, I'm going to be back on my phone. And so fighting it is so difficult. And I think it's the same thing when we're trying to fight that natural response of outrage, that first reaction. It's clickbait. It takes everything we have to resist.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to be upset about this, and I'm going to go spread it all on social media.
Well, as you were talking, here's a little vulnerable moment.
Okay.
Let's just be authentic here.
Sure.
As you were talking about outrage and people who are living in outrage, it came to mind of something to say, something that I could bring up a little like, haha, gotcha at somebody that is in the world. And I paused and I said, wait, what would Jesus do? Would Jesus take the opportunity to have a little poke at somebody? And I don't think so. And so I didn't make the comment.
Nice job.
Right? And I'm not trying to say that to pat myself on the back, but even in a conversation about not having our identities get in the way of Jesus, I am sitting here trying to work that out in my brain of like, wait, how do I actually do this? Okay, I'm not going to make the comment. And like, it is hard.
It really
is. It is really hard because what I wanted to say was going to send a message home, like, and a lot of people that listen to us probably would have reacted favorably to that. Would have been like, yeah, you're right. That's true.
We're the good guys. They're the bad guys.
Yeah. Yeah. So even in this conversation, we have to be careful not to.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we have to be careful to follow Jesus. I don't want to say we have to I want the positive part of this of
right.
It's okay to have political leanings. It's okay to have different identities. The problem is when they are when they are before Jesus. And so we have to have Jesus. We have to put Jesus first.
Okay, guys. Well, we just learned in real time that following Jesus is hard.
Yeah.
Turns out.
Oh my gosh.
Turns out that loving your neighbor is hard. Loving your enemy is hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Both of them.
Yeah. But I don't know if there's another quote from President Nelson's thing. Let me just see the words that. If any label replaces your most important identifiers, the results can be spiritually suffocating. And maybe that is what we're seeing is a lot of spiritually suffocated people right now. He put the most important identifiers as children of God, child of God, child of the covenant, and disciple of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Those are all important things. And if we can't understand that we're a child of God and that means everybody else is also a child of God, then we're gonna just be spiritually suffocated. We're not gonna succeed in much.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, this one got intense.
Yeah. Yeah.
We talked about politics.
Yeah, we did. In roundabout ways.
Yeah.
Anyway,
not actually talk about politics.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're really glad that we could be here and have this conversation.
And we will see you all next time.
See ya.